collapse of global plastics treaty. So this was a requested topic. Someone requested me in last week's doubt session, and I hope you're there in the class today. So this treaty was being discussed in Geneva, and it was the 5th round of negotiations, and there was no end to it. There was a deadlock, and hence this treaty was not adopted. Why there was a deadlock, we will get to know. So no consensus was reached on the revised draft treaty. No consensus means all the negotiating members were not on the same plane, some were differing. Was reached on the revised draft treaty despite participation from 184 countries. India reiterated its opposition to binding commitments on product phase outs. So it is not only about plastic bags, it is about the byproducts which come out from the petroleum industry, plastic balls and all. And in many ways plastic is present around us. So they are talking about phasing out plastics. Well, India as a developing country cannot afford this as of now, because multiple entities in India are dependent upon plastics, and whatever the replacement of plastics will be, it will be quite expensive. The failure is seen as a major setback in the global efforts to combat plastic pollution. So, plastic pollution, for combating it, this treaty was being negotiated, but since it has not been adopted, so it is a major setback. The background, the Global Plastics Treaty. In 2022, United Nations Environment Assembly adopted a resolution to negotiate a legally binding global treaty to end plastic pollution by 2025, and it is 2025. Multiple rounds of negotiations have taken place. It is not yet adopted, to be very specific. It is the 5th round of negotiations, and after that also it is not adopted. In 2022, United Nations Environment Assembly adopted a resolution to have this treaty, but after 5 rounds of negotiation, this treaty is not yet adopted. Why? Because of the differences. We are not able to reach the consensus. What are the differences? We'll see. Since then, since 2022, negotiations have taken place in Uruguay, France, Kenya, Canada, Republic of Korea, now Switzerland, August 2025. These were happening. Aim of the treaty: to address global plastic pollution. Plastics is non-biodegradable. It causes a lot of problems. That is why we have to stop its usage. So we want to address global plastic pollution through life cycle approach. Production to disposal. Means from where the plastics are being produced to how they are being disposed. So life cycle approach has to be adopted for tackling global plastic pollution. Reduction in plastic production. This has to happen, and this is where India is differing. Control of hazardous chemicals. Multiple chemicals are used in the plastic manufacturing. In the plastics also they are present, and they somehow or the other they are entering the human body, which is causing a lot of diseases in humans. Promotion of sustainable alternatives. That has also to be done, because if you completely wipe out plastic, the gap has to be filled by some, I would say, object or some product, and we have to find that product, and we have to make sure that that product is sustainable. Key issues: the scope of treaty, entire life cycle of plastics. There are two basically groups which have been formed who are discussing this treaty. One is called as the High Ambition Coalition. It comprises of the developed world, and the other is like-minded bloc, including India, Kuwait, like countries. So the High Ambition Coalition is wanting to tackle the entire life cycle of plastics. But like-minded bloc, which are developing, underdeveloped, petroleum-rich countries, they focus only on pollution and waste management, not the life cycle, not the production. Production cuts, they strongly support. They oppose. Concerns over development are highlighted by them, because plastics are a vital component of their respective economy, so that will be impacted. Chemical regulations, they advocate ban on harmful additives. They opposed global phase outs. Chemical regulations means chemicals which have to be used. Decision making, they are open to voting. They insist on consensus only, that this treaty should be passed with consensus, means all should agree to it. Legally binding measures, they strongly prefer and they prefer nationally driven flexible approach. Means it should be left to the countries whether to make this treaty legally binding or not. So these are the now details of the draft treaty. The chair's first draft, 13th August 2025, it was tabled. It was criticized for being vague and inadequate. It excluded life cycle approach, definitions of plastics, production cuts, human health impacts of plastics, and transparency on chemicals. All these were not present in this treaty which was tabled on August 13, 2025. Now the draft of this treaty was revised and it included these provisions. Revised draft, August 14, 2025. It included acknowledgement that current levels of plastic pollution and consumption are unsustainable. They are unsustainable. Reintroduction of language on chemicals of concern. References to need for global action. Still failed to gain consensus, no action taken. India's position, India said that there should not be a global listing of products or chemicals with phase out dates at this stage. Joint Secretary, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. So this simply means that there should not be a global listing of products or chemicals with phase out dates. Means India is against phase outs. So because of India's developmental concerns related to plastics. Key points: India opposes global product bans or phase out mandates. It should not be there. Treaty must respect national circumstances, like we are a developing economy and plastic is an intrinsic part of our economy. So that should be considered and be implemented nationally. And likewise, India, there are many other countries. India insists on consensus-based decision making. Decision should be consensus-based, aligned with like-minded group of developing countries and oil exporting nations such as Kuwait. So we are in this bloc, like-minded group. And the other is high impact or high ambition coalition. There are around 100 countries in high ambition coalition. It includes EU, 27 countries of there, UK, Norway, France, Canada, Rwanda, Kenya, Mexico. Majority of them are developed countries. Okay. So this is what you need to understand. They call for legally binding treaty, these high ambition coalition. Production caps, control of toxic chemicals, full life cycle approach. Like-minded bloc is opposing the high ambition coalition. It includes India, Kuwait, other petrochemical producers. They oppose production limits, mandatory phase outs, inclusion of product specific bans, because many of these products are part of the development story of these countries. Key data and facts: United Nations Environment Association initiated plastics treaty process. OECD projections, OECD again an organization of the developed countries. They say that by 2040 global global plastic production, use and wastage could rise by 70% over 2020 levels. Business as usual scenario it is. Microplastic sources. Microplastics are those plastics whose size is less than 5 micrometers. Over 60% of microplastics come from synthetic textiles, tires, and those should be tackled. Implications of the collapse. Missed opportunity. Treaty could have been the Montreal Protocol of plastics. Montreal Protocol is a successful protocol in which the world came at one's plane to reduce and phase out the usage of chlorofluorocarbons, CFCs which were causing the depletion of ozone layer. All the countries, whether developed, developing, agreed to it. It is considered to be a successful international treaty, and that is why it is written that for this global plastics treaty to be in line of the Montreal Protocol, a chance has been missed. Missed chance to protect public health, because plastic consumption or plastic circulation poses threats to public health. Regulate toxic additives, promote circular economy. So these chances have been missed out. Scientific concerns: harmful chemicals in plastics linked to cancer, hormonal disruption, neurotoxicity. These are the human health impacts of plastics. Comparative treaties, Montreal Protocol, success. Phased out ozone depleting substances, model for plastics. Kyoto Protocol 1997, it is COP number 3 of UNFCCC, that is United Nations Framework for Combating Climate Change. It is mixed, it is not considered to be so successful, neither considered to be a complete failure. The ambition was weak and participation was limited because the developed countries walked out of it because there was increasing amount of restrictions on the developed countries under Kyoto Protocol. Plastics Treaty 2025 collapsed at risk of repeating Kyoto's failures. So, this is what comparative treaties are. What can consumers do? Till this treaty is being adopted, consumers can reduce the use of plastics, say no to single-use plastics, choose natural fibers, wash clothes less frequently, that is going to be problematic, prefer cycling or walking over cars. Demand industry change, example microbeads banned due to consumer pressure, shift in demand can influence manufacturers. So all these steps can be taken by us as consumers.